Finally. But I'm in 10th place! Come on! Hello everybody, welcome back to the internet's best reactions. Today we are discussing the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. Not the Italian Grand Prix, because apparently we've had 3 of them this year. Now I have just come back from the F1 TV commentary, so I apologise if I miss out your favourite driver's sneeze that they had halfway around the race, or any sort of moment, but I think I've got all of them, so let's dive into your reactions. Right, let's begin at the very beginning, but before they even begun, which was before they were racing. Ricky_T_Thomas, Valtteri Bottas rocking his new look on the grid like. It is questionable, but it was for a good cause, so I'm not going to take the mickey. But Valtteri Bottas, was it his plan all along? Because he did come out and say that he had a plan for 2020 to beat Hamilton. Was it the moustache? No, because he didn't win today. Moving on. Okay, before we move on, one more. Just average memes. Nico Rosberg seeing Bottas. Dad? Good tweet, good tweet. So the start of the race was rather interesting, wasn't it? Valtteri Bottas got away well, and it was Lewis Hamilton that got caught up in a little bit of shenanigans. Max Verstappen getting a beautiful start. I thought Gasly was going to have some sort of chance into turn 2, but, well, he got a really good launch, but then Hamilton was like, no. You know, bit of a squeeze, not going to lie, but it was fair, just about. Even Danny Rick is sniffing a potential opportunity. Holds on, does Hammy. Why did I call him Hammy? Don't know. Either way, Antonio Giovinazzi had an absolute worldie of a start from 20th on the grid. The first Italian since 1980 or something to have 3 home races in a season. Well, it's not even an accurate stat, probably. Gio from last to 14th in the opening lap. Look, that's what actually set him up for success. He got a point. Well deserved. Antonio, there at Alfa Romeo next season. Almost didn't get the Romeo out there. Alfa Romeo next season. Solid performance after a terrible qualifying. Ville Julin 15, so we've spoken about someone with a good start. A bad start is Stroll, and just losing his front wing, having to pit, and what has happened to his season since Mugello, where he was 4th in the championship, obviously crashed there, but not because of his fault. But since then, obviously he had COVID and missed a race and just hasn't been on the pace since. I was kind of shouting his praises. You know, Lance Stroll, he's going to take it to Sebastian Vettel next year. He's better than Perez at the moment. Now he's not as good as Romain Grosjean. Why did I choose Grosjean? That was mean. Because this is not the only Grosjean bashing I'm going to be doing in this episode. But not because of his performance. I'll get onto it. Now with Lance Stroll's damage, and the front wing just had a little flibbity-flobbity-woobity-woo, Helena hates you. Marshall's leaving the front wing out for added spice. I like the use of spice. I love to use spicy in commentary. And yeah, they just left it there, and then all of a sudden, it just disappeared. So a brave Marshall has just rocketed out to the edge of the track with what looked like, well, there's no virtual safety car. I'm assuming maybe a yellow flag, although I didn't see any graphics for yellow flags. Either way, that Marshall was a hero, and I'm glad it's not the Marshall that we saw Singapore a few years ago. Do you remember that meme of that Marshall running out of turn 1, looking like he was about to get mown down by a Formula 1 car? I'm glad it wasn't him. Now, stepping away from the race just very slightly, for some reason there was an Imola cat thing going on, where a cat was just roaming the paddock at Harvey_LN4. The Imola cat sat in the stands today. I think Sebastian Vettel actually called the cat fat, which wasn't particularly great. Maybe the cat was there when Sebastian Vettel pitted later on in the race, or made the wheel gun sticky with catnip. I don't know. I don't really know cats. That might not even make sense. Moving on! I'm energetic, but chatting absolute. At James Lewis 21, I think every single person can get behind this tweet. Everyone on board the Russell train. I was there in commentary. Hand mic there, ready. Watching George Russell the entire race. Who cares if there were other overtakes? I was looking at that interval. I was like, okay, all right, hello. P10. Don't let me, I can't speak about it. It is a travesty. Another travesty, which was of course Pierre Gasly, who was looking extremely quick, sitting in P5 after a mediocre start, closing in on Daniel Ricciardo, could have easily had a podium this afternoon. Instead, they had a terminal failure with the car. Even though Gasly was quicker than Daniel Ricciardo, they clearly saw something that they just couldn't fix on the grid. And unfortunately, the Red Bull B team just clearly maybe not as quick at fixing things as the Red Bull team when they did it with Max and somehow got him out for qualifying. Heartbroken. Love you, Pierre, driver of the season. Now, would it be a Formula One race without Lewis Hamilton talking about his tyres? Steve, 65462, Hamilton, right front doesn't feel great. Do you remember that? Do you remember him saying that? Probably, I want to say 12 or 13 laps in, nothing more than the teens, and he's complaining about the tyres, and yet he's the one that went 35 laps on the mediums, setting fastest laps, easily 10 laps after saying this. I never believe him. Anytime he says that, I'm like, he's going to win now, isn't he? He's absolutely won. And he did. It's that ginger. Seb and Kimi this year. They cannot be separated, can they? Those two. If you had told a year ago me, Seb and Kimi would be battling week in, week out, I would have gone, hold on. Has Alfa Romeo become some incredible Ferrari B team that's almost as good as Ferrari? Turns out that Ferrari were a bit naughty last year, weren't they? Now this is an interesting point. FIFA NR6. Bottas asking for a different strategy every race. Mercedes, no. Hamilton asking for a different strategy. Mercedes, I'll give you anything you want. It is interesting, isn't it? Whether it's the case of the fact that Hamilton can actually do something like that with the tyres, which is rather masterful and, you know, only 6-time champs and people like Lewis Hamilton can do it, or Mercedes really want Lewis to win. I feel like it's more that one. I know Valtteri had damage and it was affecting him dearly, but it was a pretty good drive from Lewis, it has to be said. You can't deny that he made those tyres work, but it's difficult to compare when Valtteri was an ailing man. Right, let's talk about Alex Albon messing up part 1. At Stokesy_56, Albon taps Kvyat's front wing, F1 fans. Now, before you get into it, Kvyat, that's how I say it. If it's wrong, I don't care. Right, anyway, moving on. How close was that Albon just turned in? I feel like Alex Albon's spatial awareness when it comes to him being in the car, of course, remember Nürburgring, he literally turned and just ripped off Kvyat's front wing. He almost did exactly the same here this afternoon as well. They actually made contact. How he didn't get a puncture and how Kvyat didn't lose an end plate is beyond me. But I say fear, I'm rather confident that Alex Albon has sealed his fate after this race. There was some really interesting tyre strategy going on during the race. I know some of it was dull, and I apologise for that because clearly it was my fault. But there was a lot of tyre strategy going on. You had some drivers pitting quite early and trying to get track position with the undercut. Then you had the likes of Vettel, Raikkonen staying out for absolutely years on the medium tyres. James_Tripney won, Vettel in P5. It was, and this is bad because it kind of sums up how Vettel's season's been going. I mean, he literally has 18 points. It kind of just highlighted as well how bad his season is going when we kind of look at him in 5th and go, what's gone on? Now, I mentioned the tyre strategy. There was Kevin Magnussen, who was one of those that was stretching his first stint, and then he had the likes of Ricciardo, Leclerc and Albon behind, and there was some saucy battling there. Oh, goodness me. Ross Davis_24, watching Magnussen defend from Ricciardo, Leclerc and Albon. That was some good action, it has to be said, mainly forced by the fact Magnussen is in a Haas and on a bad strategy, but it was still good racing. Of course, I've mentioned it already, Lewis Hamilton going for the overcut and trying to push his first stint, and it was actually a really intriguing battle. You had Bottas in an ailing car, but slightly, well, fresher tyres, Verstappen right behind, and the gap was hovering around what Hamilton needed to jump Bottas and take the lead, which would have been sensational. Of course, Bottas damage, I know, for those of you that you're going to jump and go, Matt, you're such a Hamilton hater. And then as soon as I started to say something good, man, you love Hamilton. I can't win. Hamilton drove well, okay? Anyway, O'Headman, Ocon's car to Hamilton. Here, take the win. Of course, Ocon retiring from the race, bringing out the VSC, literally the most perfect time for Lewis Hamilton to just stroll into the pits. Oh, thank you very much. I'll have a cheap pit stop. 4 seconds in the lead. Thank you very much. I reckon it'd be very close on the pit exit. The fact that he was only 4 seconds ahead when he came out, but we were robbed of that battle. Wessel Backer 03. Ham needs to pit. FIA. Guess I'll VSC. Good stuff. Like it, Vessel. That's almost tweet of the week. Well done. At animatrix_YT, Latifi running in the top 10 for 30 laps. Of course, he hadn't pit and he was just in kind of no man's land along with Vettel and Raikkonen. They were just extending forever, hoping to maybe catch a safety car or a virtual safety car. There was obviously the VSC, but it was so short that Vettel and Raikkonen, etc. couldn't take advantage of it. But Latifi, I mean, by the end, he was about 7/10 of a second behind a point. Can you imagine if Latifi got the point? It would have been Germany all over again. Where Russell was in the points, made the mistake, Kubica took the point. This is simple yet effective. Matteo Romero 2016, watching an awful race in Imola versus in Sochi, Abu Dhabi, etc. It's so true. Imola was dull at points, don't get me wrong, and yet it was Imola, so you're just kind of like appreciating the history. And I said this before it happened, was that if we have a bad race around Imola and we go there again, people will start to complain. But because it was the first time, it's nostalgic. I mentioned that Vettel was in no man's land, but he was having a really good race. Don't get me wrong. He's had a terrible season. He was having a stonker until he came into the pits and Ferrari decided to just not put on tyres very quickly. Albon, I think, did a 1.8 second pit stop last time out. Yeah, this was 13.1. At Beer Torius, Vettel having his best race in 2020. Ferrari pit crew. Sabotage. Wait, they didn't sabotage him. They're not sabotaging... Right. It's rant time. Why do people think that Ferrari are legitimately hindering Vettel's car? Now, I understand that potentially, and most likely, Ferrari are developing their car to suit Leclerc. Because Leclerc is staying with the team, it makes sense. But for people that think they're genuinely like kicking Vettel's car as they walk along and get ready for the race, or throwing a stone in the radiator, or genuinely trying to just hinder Vettel's race, that does not make any sense. Moving on. Right, let's talk about it. Let's talk about George Russell, but let's set the scene first. Of course, Max Verstappen got ahead of Valtteri Bottas after Bottas made a mistake in the last couple of corners. Verstappen looking very happy in second, gapped Bottas by a mile, and then his rear tyre just blew up. Safety car out. We're thinking, hello. George Russell, 10th position. Samuel 8563148 George, not sure about that spelling, was in 10th and crashed. The spelling's bad, but it's fine. The picture's good. George. Shaq Zaman. Russell being able to taste the points. The Fall Guys meme, it works. I don't know how much longer Fall Guys memes will work for, but they work right now. George Russell, oh my goodness me. He's done a Romain Grosjean, without shadow of a doubt. Lighting up the rear tyres, flying to the wall. You can see on the replay as well, George's car just lifts a slight bit, so going down the hill, his car lifts and clearly the rears start to light up as he's trying to get warmth into the tyres and then just flies into the wall. You can see how much it meant to him as well. I was expecting more bleeps and I think it was genuine shock that he was in the wall. I think now we start to wonder if there is a curse on George Russell in that Williams. I'm sure he will score points when he gets to better teams, but can he ever score a point in the Williams? I don't know. When we actually got the race underway after clearing up George Russell's mess and Max Verstappen's mess, Danny Kvyat was the man on a mission. When I was in commentary, I was thinking it was Sergio Perez, obviously on brand spanking new softs. But Kvyat in the AlphaTauri just came out of nowhere and just fancied a podium. Hamza Jaital, Daniil after the restart. So good. So good. And who wasn't good on the safety car restart? Boy Guardrail 9. No, I'm not saying that you weren't good on the safety car restart. This is your tweet. Red Bull to Alex Albon after this race. Just lost it. The hard tyres were clearly very difficult to warm up in those first couple of laps. We saw how easily Kvyat was getting past people. But spinning, when you've got your career on the line, there's no more to say. There really isn't. The Lord Spud, Imola GP in a nutshell. I found some of the early parts of the race interesting, especially when Hamilton was trying to jump Bottas. I found that it was like a time trial. I actually quite enjoyed that. Hope you guys did too. Or is it just me? I don't know. But most of it, yeah, the end was pretty awesome. Pavoas _ me when I see Daniel Ricciardo on the podium. Now, of course, I have always said that Pierre Gasly has been driver of the season, but I think Daniel Ricciardo is a very close second now. Such a good drive. Decided to stay out on the hards. Perez went in for the softs and it didn't work out for him. And he made it work. And then he got on the podium and then he did a shoey. Finally, he didn't forget. URC_rotation. Everyone waiting on the shoey be like, genuinely. I genuinely thought he wasn't going to do it. He was kind of walking around and I thought he'd forgotten again. So many podiums, this guy just, forgets us. Forgets that we demand a shoey. And then Lewis Hamilton did a shoey. Out of Daniel Ricciardo's shoe. Firstly, I really enjoyed it and it actually made me like Lewis Hamilton a lot more. It actually was a strange side to Lewis that we don't really see that often. And secondly, why now? I'm not going to fuel the fire, but I just found it very odd that that was the time Lewis decided to drink out of someone else's shoe. Either way, generally, as a whole, I really liked it and it made me like Lewis a lot more, just for that side of things. A lot of talk that he might not even be on the grid next year in the Mercedes. Now, you've probably been sat there waiting for Fanatec Tweet of the Week. Where is it, Matt?
Who has won Tweet of the Week?
Well, it's right here, right at the end of the video this time. And the winner goes to Formula Rennie, with I think I speak for the entire F1 community. Perfect. Perfect. There was a lot of memes of this. This is the one I decided to choose. Don't get angry if you also did a similar template meme. This is the winner. We congratulate and we're lovely and nice here. We're not going to attack, are we, Twitter? What's the point? It's Twitter. My favourite Instagram post comes from F1 Memes 365. So Mercedes are now world champions, Gasly's car broke down, Max's tyre blew up, and Russell lost his maiden point. I think that sums up exactly how we all feel after that race. Emotional, it was good. It was good enough for us to be like, Imola, I'll have that again. But there was a lot of emotion and a lot of sadness as well. Social Media Team Championship time now, let's dive into it. Who is the winning Twitter admin? I feel like it's not even the teams, is it? It's the admins. You're watching. I can see you, Mr. or Mrs. Twitter admin from the F1 racing teams. You're ready for the points. Well, here we go. This is the top three from the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. In third position, we have Mercedes-AMG F1. We think this might belong to you, Scuderia Ferrari. Here's the piece of debris we just removed from Valtteri Bottas's car. I'm half doing it because it's funny and the fact that they've tagged Ferrari, and half doing just to show you all that is ridiculous. And no wonder Bottas was slower. Well done, Mercedes. In second place, and these two are brilliant, by the way, if you haven't seen them. In second place, we have Williams F1 Racing. You better believe we have a meme ready. Obviously, all about the fact that George Russell may have not been racing for them next year. That's a great meme. Well done, Williams. And finally, the winners, of course. If you've seen it, you knew. You knew. Even Mercedes tweeted saying, call off the Social Media Team Championship. It's over. It's Haas F1 team with the maximum points. This Halloween, it's his turn to smash a door. The styling. Oh, it's so good. This is the kind of stuff that I have been living and waiting for. Haas, you may be 12 points behind the top, but you are closing in on potentially taking it to Racing Point next time. Next year, even. Not next time. You can't get 12 points. Maybe I'll do double points for the final race. Double points for the final Grand Prix. You heard it here first. That's 1 point for Mercedes-AMG F1, 2 points for Williams, and 3 points for Haas F1 team.
And now it's time for Race Rundown with your host, Matthew Gallagher.
Race rundown time now. No messing about this time, I don't care. 15 finishes. I'm a pro. The finishers of the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, Imola GP, were Hamilton, Bottas, Ricciardo, Kvyat. I just really wanted to do it. First time, once in my life. Hamilton, Bottas, Ricciardo, Kvyat, Leclerc. Hamilton, Bottas, Ricciardo, Kvyat, Leclerc, Perez, Sainz, Norris, Raikkonen, Giovinazzi, Latifi, Vettel, Stroll, Grosjean, Albon. There you go. There you go. That'll do. That'll do. That will do, donkey. The non-finishes were Russell Verstappen, Magnus Gasly. There you have it. Thank you so much for watching the Imola Grand Prix, Internet's Best Reactions, or the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, whatever you want to call it, who cares? But thank you so much to you all for getting involved week in, week out, using the hashtag WTF1. Of course, we will contact Formula Rennie for winning Tweet of the Week, and thank you to Fanatec for sponsoring this series, as always. Amazing stuff. Make sure to go and check them out. And we'll see you in 2 weeks for Turkey, which apparently is Not actually going to be as exciting as we thought because turn 8 is going to be flat and no one cares. That's what Albon and Verstappen said, not me. Either way, I have lots of energy for someone that's been up very, very early. I will see you in 2 weeks' time. Probably earlier because we have more content coming out, but for Internet's Best Reactions, I will be there in 2 weeks' time to talk about Turkey and all of that good stuff, okay? All right? Have a great day, evening, morning, wherever you are. I love you all so much. Take care.